Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostrowski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
Welcome in, everybody. It is another edition of the Big O Show here on Thursday night on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe. Excited to be here tonight, folks. We thank everybody for watching. If you're on X or you're on Facebook Live, hop over to YouTube if you get a chance. Get in the comments like everybody does. You got something good tonight, we'll get it up on the show. But as always, folks, smash that subscribe button. Hit the like button as always, whether you're watching it now live, if you check it later on YouTube, or you catch it on podcast form tomorrow. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. And we love the fact that you guys are tuning in and listening to the content that we're creating, myself, Joe, and John. It's been great. We're going north as far as growth. We're getting to those numbers that we want to get to, and that's because of all you guys and girls listening, and we appreciate you as always. But we got a big game on Monday night, and we're going to try and get out of here in about 30 minutes or so because we got a big AFC East divisional game tonight. That game on Prime, the Jets and the Patriots. But we want to talk about Monday night's matchup in Orchard Park, Highmark Stadium, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Weather on Monday, 76 degrees, low of 56. You got about a 40% chance of rain. Just how the Bills like it, just how the Mafia likes it as the Jacksonville Jaguars come into town. Bills are 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5 points. And should be a great game on Monday night. Third game of the season. Bills are 2-0. Jacksonville 0-2. And they come in obviously led by Trevor Lawrence. And Jacksonville leads this series with the Bills 10-9. They've won 4 of the last 6 matchups with Buffalo. Of course, the last time they played was last year in London. Kind of that disastrous performance by the Bills, and just that was the Matt Milano injury game. And that was kind of the start of a downward slide for the Bills before they were able to pull the nose up, so to speak, and get out of that nosedive and find a way to get into the playoffs. That game last year, Jacksonville won 25-20. And if you look at the last 5 matchups between these teams, the Bills, they lose 9-6 and 21 at Jacksonville. They do win this game at home. 2018, they won at home 24-21. And so that is a good news for us, and considering we are playing at Highmark Stadium on Monday night. So I'm sure the Mafia will be tuned up. Just kind of really a quick overlook of these 2 teams and where they match up ratings-wise in the NFL right now. Jacksonville, their offense ranked 22nd overall, 18th in the rush. They are 25th in the passing game. In scoring offense, they're ranked 27th. On defense, they're ranked 22nd in the NFL, 11th against the rush, a mere 30th against the pass. In scoring defense, they are 8th. They've only given up minimal points, but they are 0-2. Buffalo comes in offensive-wise. We all know this is a team in the Bills that has played really, really well on offense without the gaudy Josh Allen numbers. And the offense comes in ranked 21st overall in the league, just ahead of Jacksonville, tied with Jacksonville in rushing offense at 18th. Passing offense, the Bills check in at 23rd. And then scoring offense, they are 3rd in the league, taking advantage of those opportunities to score points in the red zone, to score points in general. Defensive-wise, Bills check in 16th overall, 18th against the rush, 12th against the pass, and they're tied for 8th in scoring defense, which to me, folks, is the most important statistic when you look at the defense. They're not allowing teams to score, and you're scoring points. You got a chance to win a lot of games. Turnover differential, Jaguars at -1, Bills at -3. That's coming off of, 3 interceptions last week. So those are the particulars as far as how the two teams match up. As we do every week, folks, we like to jump in real quick with our man, Dr. Brad Bowen from Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. And Dr. Bowen comes in to give us a perspective on the Bills injury report. And we will do that once again tonight. But as of right now, injury report for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, left hand full. He's still on the list. They got to put him on there. But as you saw last week, no discomfort from him. The magical left glove that he wears seems to be doing its job. Terrell Bernard, obviously the pectoral injury last week, he did not participate this week. He is out, as is Taron Johnson with the forearm injury. Ty Johnson, who has a knee, Quentin Morris, who has a shoulder. Both of those guys were full go, as well as Mitchell Trubisky with his knee injury. And then you look at Dwayne Smoot with a toe and Javon Solomon with the oblique injury. They were limited as well. And this is the one that has me concerned because I think he is a very good player, really good complementary player for the Buffalo Bills. And that's Casey Toohill, who also gets a ton of snaps on special teams. He was limited this week with a knee. So hopefully the extra day rest going Monday night will allow him to participate. But Brad, man, how you doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
Doing well, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding. So when you hear this injury report, you've seen it, you've studied it. What are some of your concerns, some things you want to get into tonight?
I think the two people that we're most worried about are the guys that aren't going to be playing on Monday. So I figure we'll talk about those guys first. And the first one of those two being linebacker Terrell Bernard. I think everyone saw and has been made aware that the left pec injury that he has now, and going back and taking a look at the film, as the Bills were working back towards their own goal line, essentially, Terrell Bernard came up to Phil at the line of scrimmage and got his left arm caught a little funny. And at the time, nobody really knew anything was up until a couple plays later when he was dragging his arm behind him. And initially, when I saw this injury and I was texting you and Joe about it, he was kind of running around with his arm hanging at his side. And my initial thought was probably labrum or subluxation, just because he was kind of hanging it next to him and not really using it too much. And then later come to find out it was a pec tear. Well, I guess the good part about the whole pec tear thing is that Matt Milano was back after 2 games. I think this was last year. So he recovered pretty quickly from that and was playing at a pretty high level again. So I kind of have my fingers crossed that for Terrell Bernard, it's the same thing. With strains of that kind of sort, they're graded 1 through 3. Grade 1 is typically you're still pretty strong, but you've got a decent amount of discomfort. Grade 2 would be you're demonstrating a pretty good amount of weakness, but it's very painful. And I think that's kind of where Terrell Bernard landed. It was a nice grade 2 strain. Hasn't been placed on IR to this point. So again, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks is about what we would expect to see him out.
Brad, I got to ask you this question because I was actually in on one of these cases this morning. When you start talking about pec injuries, you can have a couple of different areas that can be affected. One of those areas is the actual tendon and the insertion point. The other is the muscle belly of the pec. When you start talking strains and things like that, and the fact that he hasn't been placed on the IR, do you think maybe this is more of a muscle belly thing as opposed to the tendon? Because we know that the tendon, when that is torn or disrupted, that's a much more detrimental injury than, say, a muscle belly injury.
Correct. When you start talking about tendons pulling off of bones, it becomes very hard to move those and get those healthy again. So yeah, then muscle bellies too, where they've got a lot bigger blood supply. So the rate of healing is totally different one versus the other. So yeah, the best case scenario of this is a muscle belly, grade 2 strain. He works through it over the next couple of weeks. We see him integrated back into practice, and hopefully he only misses 2, maybe 3 games.
Anything else you want to get into as far as you talked about Taron Johnson? And obviously I wanted to touch on this. When you saw that mode of injury or the injury when it happened, is there anything that happened that might lead you to believe that he might possibly have a UCL type injury that they're trying to let scar up a little bit and calm down and then brace him up? Or do you still kind of believe this is more of a nerve type injury or those types of things. So I'd have to think that the fact that he's not been placed on IR kind of rules out fracture, considering those are usually 6 to 8 week things. You know, do you think there's any UCL involvement or not?
I'm hoping not. You know, it's not uncommon with the UCL that you would see someone get braced with a little bit of elbow flexion to kind of help those tissues scar down. So the fact that we haven't seen him in a sling, haven't seen him in a brace, he was seen in the locker room, I believe it was yesterday, or walking through after practice. It sounded like it was a casual walk by, nothing on that arm. So I'm still kind of leaning towards soft tissue injury on the outside of that arm. Again, last time I mentioned radial nerve, I wanted to bring up the fact that, you know, the reason I went towards that first, because I was asked by a few people throughout the last week about it, is that I've treated several boxers that have had issues in the past. So you get punched in that arm in that same area repeatedly. In this case, high impact injury with a helmet, you irritate that nerve and it becomes very debilitating. So that my initial thought on that was probably more from experience than anything else than location of the helmet. And I still tend to believe that to this day.
What is and obviously, you know, talking about Bernard earlier in rate of healing, and everybody's different. But when you start talking about an acute nerve injury, something that's been hit, you know, there's that kind of deadening of the nerve and you disrupt it. Usually, how long does that take to get that back? I mean, I know sometimes it takes, I'm trying to remember who it was. It might've been Rob Johnson had a nerve injury along with his UCL injury. And, you know, that nerve regeneration is like an inch every so many months or something like that. What do you think as far as, you know, how that nerve responds to just rest and, you know, and treatment?
The lack of irritation is the biggest thing, and the term 1 millimeter per day is always used. Now, what that means, I have no idea, other than it heals very slowly. You don't see these things progress too quick, and I think the biggest thing that they're doing is they're keeping him from getting hit there again, trying to minimize any future damage. And my guess is because he's such a high impact player that they're going to really make sure that arm is back to 100% before it does take a hit again. And I do believe that when he gets back into practice, you'll probably see it padded up pretty good as well.
Obviously, Dwayne Smoot and Javon Solomon get back on the field in a limited role this week. Still probably lean to the fact that if, you know, coming back limited and been listed as limited all week, maybe we'll see them in another week or two. Just kind of, you know, it's obviously the progression is good that they've actually got back on the field.
Yeah, we may see him as soon as this week. It's hard to tell. Kyle from Banged Up Bills had posted a video of Dwayne Smoot running like a figure eight drill and then coming around and hitting the bag. And the interesting part about that, I only watched Smoot run. I didn't see Javon Solomon, so I can't speak to him too much. But Dwayne Smoot was not listed with a specific side as far as the injury goes. But if you go back onto Twitter and you find that video that I'm talking about, as he bends the corner, he's got his right foot kind of pointed out, if you will, which would be kind of an abduction movement, and he's keeping his foot very flat, not driving off that big toe. So I'm guessing that it's a right-sided injury, and he seemed actually more comfortable bending right to left. Now, he may have something in his shoe that makes him move that way, but if I'm working with an athlete that is abducting their foot or creating these compensatory movement patterns, I'm certainly not calling them 100% for that week. Again, with an orthotic in, that may change it, you know, regardless of what we think and we're watching videos. But I'm guessing he's not going to be 100% for another week or two, but they may make him go this week. We'll see.
Real quick before I let you go, Dr. Brad Bowen joins us weekly here on the Big O Show on Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central. He's from Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. He'll be on all season long to provide updates on injuries and just some of the things that he's seen and when we might possibly get guys back or lose guys, which we don't want to see. But real fast, any hunch or inkling about Casey Toohill? Because I think he's a vital piece of what they're trying to do in Buffalo.
I haven't seen too much on Casey, so that knee being mentioned, the fact that he was practicing leads me to believe that he's going to be feeling pretty good come Monday. So more of a fingers crossed situation. I didn't get a chance to find any video of how exactly he hurt it, but if there's not a lot out there floating on the internet and he's playing in practice a little bit, usually that ends up with a good result.
All right, he's Dr. Brad Bowen, Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. He'll be on every week here on the Big O Show. Brad, we appreciate your expert analysis of the Bills injury report, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Looking forward to it as well, Jerry. Have a good one.
All right, we'll talk to you later. If you have any injuries or anything you're dealing with yourself, your family, young athletes, head on over to see Dr. Brad Bowen, Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. He can go ahead and get you guys fixed up. Even if you're just looking for an edge performance-wise, like you're a golfer like I am, I play tons of golf, and you want to work on your movements that are specific to the game that you play. I know a lot of hockey players in Buffalo and all that type of stuff. Go see Dr. Brad Bowen at Driven Physical Therapy and Performance, and he can help you out. As we roll into the second half of the show, we weren't able to obtain a guest from any of the Jacksonville Believe networks and or other content creators. So we're going to get into some numbers. We're going to get into the roster of the Jacksonville Jaguars, just kind of give you a little bit of a background on what they like to do. And then we'll jump into my keys of the game as we move along on this in-depth look at the Jacksonville-Buffalo matchup Monday night in Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park. And again, that game starts 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Team leaders for Jacksonville: Trevor Lawrence, of course, he's the quarterback. Big deal this offseason. 26 of 51, 382 yards, 1 touchdown. And when you look at Trevor Lawrence, he's got a 51% completion rating, 82.3 rating, quarterback rating. He has rushed 3 times for 53 yards. So is he as good of a runner as Josh Allen is? No, he's not. But he can get out and make plays with his feet if he has to. You look at the receivers. They are led by one Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie from Texas, 6 receptions, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. And then their rushing game is led by Travis Etienne, the former Clemson player, 25 rushes, 96 yards. I think it comes out to a little over 4 yards a carry. He also had 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen comes in. He checks in at 31 of 42 on the season, 371 yards, 3 touchdowns, 73.8 completion percentage, 124.2 quarterback rating. That's what I was saying earlier. You look at those Buffalo Bills offensive numbers, passing-wise, they're 23rd in the league. But Josh is doing a tremendous job of orchestrating this offense for Joe Brady, not making the big mistakes, making the plays when they're there, and, of course, as he always does, extending plays with his feet. So I will take this Josh over big numbers, sugar high Josh, any day of the week. You look at leading receiver for the Bills, that would be Khalil Shakir, 8 receptions, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. This guy's a star in the making. And we talk about wide receiver number 1, and honestly, why can't wide receiver number 1 be a slot guy? And like I said before, I think Shakir translates outside and in, but tremendous. You can see the upside. You can see his maturation from last year to this year, just in size and strength, his hand strength to catch the football, and his ability to run after the catch. He's doing a tremendous job. I look for more of that coming up on Monday night. James Cook, our leading rusher, 30 rushes, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cook doing a tremendous job toting the rock. But looking real quick at Jacksonville, and you want to talk about some of the things they like to do offensively, this is a true blue pro style offense. This is a 3 receiver single back, or they'll bring a tight end in, go two tight, or go 2 wideouts, 1 tight end, 3 wideouts, 1 tight end, 1 back. They're running pro set stuff. Their plays are pro set stuff. The way they block up front, they get downhill, and they will get after you. This is an offensive line that obviously is led by Mitch Morse. Mitch comes in, former Buffalo Bill. You can see the leadership out of Mitch when you watch the All-22. You watch these games. You can see the leadership. You can see his mind and the way he's thinking, the way he's orchestrating that group up front. But the one thing that Mitch has done is he slipped a little bit in athleticism. He is having some issues getting up to the second level. Always been a decent second level player, but he is a guy that is starting to show his age. And while Bills fans were very, very, I wouldn't say upset. You can say upset in some cases, but we're definitely bummed out that Mitch moved on. when we had the cap crunch before the season started. It is easy to see right now why they did it. Now, if you look at PFF grades, Mitch is the 11th rated center out of 33 in the league. He's got a 68.6 win rate. That's his overall grade. So they got Mitch at center, and they're going to obviously the Bills are going to have to change some nomenclature on defense and also offense, change up some wording and some verbiage, because I'm sure that him along with Gabe Davis have met with those defensive coaches and defense coordinator at Jacksonville to help him out. But that offensive line rounding out the front, Harrison right tackle, Sheriff right guard, Morris obviously at center, left guard is Cleveland, and Cam Robinson, the former Alabama Crimson Tide player, he is at left tackle. Obviously Trevor Lawrence and Etienne Jr. in the backfield. Gabe Davis, he wears number 0 for Jacksonville. He's out there, ranked 46th wide receiver out of 107 in the league, 66.1 rate. They've also got Kirk, who has some big playability in the slot. And then they've got some issues at tight end with some injuries, but Strange right now listed as the starting tight end. And then you got obviously Brian Thomas Jr. out there on the other side playing wide out. Defensively, this to me is the big strength of Jacksonville. You want to know what Jacksonville does? Watch the Buffalo Bills. They're very, very similar. They run that kind of a 4-2-5. They can play a 4-3, but they will play a lot of 4-2-5 with a nickel back. They're led up front by Hines Allen, who changed his name obviously to get rid of some of the confusion between himself and our Josh Allen. Then you look at the other side, they got Walker, the big defensive end, 6'5" from Georgia. Those two guys can get after it. They are premier pass rushers in the NFL. And then Ledbetter and Robertson Harris inside, clogging up the middle. At cornerback, you got one side, you got Darby and Brown. And at safety, you got Cisco and Johnson. And then, linebackers, Abdullah and Luakun. So these are guys that can really, really run. They get to the football. They will get after it. This is a group that has given the Bills fits in the past. So I'm looking for a little bit possibly of the same this weekend. And when here in a moment, when I get to my keys of the game, we'll talk about some of those things, because there's some things that the Bills can do to neutralize the speed and athleticism of this Jacksonville defense. Now, granted, they play a ton of man coverage and they have had some issues, but as we've said in the past, their pass rush has been able to get home and pester Josh Allen. And so we'll see what the Bills can do to neutralize that. Obviously, Bills, we know those starting lineups. The guy who gets his first start of the season after a substantial amount of playing time on defense last week, obviously, is Braylon Spector. He will start at middle linebacker in that Terrell Bernard spot. We'll see if Joe Andreessen is active for this game. Remember, they still got Nicholas Morrow on the bench, a guy that can play outside where Dorian Williams plays, but also can play inside in the pinch. So it'll be interesting to see, while Andreessen might go ahead and dress, if there is an issue, and we hope there's not, although Spector has been a guy that has had some reliability and durability issues. If something were to happen to him, will we see Morrow at that middle linebacker position, or will we see Andreessen? Time will tell, and I hope we don't find out. Obviously, DeMar Hamlin and Rapp starting at safety. You got Benford and Douglas. And then offensively, the list is the same. We have no injuries over there. Kincaid at the starting tight end position, and the rest of them. When I look at this game this weekend, and we get into our particulars, and we get into our keys of the game, one of the things, and I think one of the biggest things as keys of this game, is the fact that Jacksonville's offensive line has had issues pass blocking this year. They've given up 7 sacks so far this season in 2 games, 4 sacks last week. Lawrence was pressured last week at a 41.7% pressure percentage. That's a big time rate. And Cam Robinson gave up 2 of those sacks last week. So if you look at the Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville's offensive line, particularly those tackles versus Rousseau, Miller, and the rest of that Bills defensive line. You got Epinesa. If Tuhill can play, you got Tuhill as well. And like I said earlier, I think that Tuhill is a guy that needs to play. He's a guy that really provides a lot for this Bills team, not only in depth on the defensive line, but also special teams. Going to be a huge area. Vaughn already has 2 sacks this season in back-to-back games. He seems to be on form. So the Bills coming off a game where they had 4 sacks in week 1 and 2 sacks last week. They're rolling in with 6. This is an area Buffalo can really take advantage of. So Monday night, when this game starts and Jacksonville rolls out on offense, pay attention to that defensive front, especially those defensive tackles, defensive ends, and see if they can keep up the success rate that other teams have had against Jacksonville. I look at my second key of the game. I look at that Bills defensive backfield, and will they continue their dominance that they've had over the first 2 games and make Jacksonville a one-dimensional team? This is a team, to me, if you can take the pass away, Jacksonville, and you can get Trevor Lawrence frustrated, okay, this is a team that I think Buffalo can take advantage of, and a lot of teams have taken advantage of. Bills obviously had 3 interceptions last week, and they held Tyreek Hill to 3 catches for 24 yards. Now, he had some handoffs where he made some big plays, but as far as explosives in the passing game, non-existent. Then, of course, obviously, Tua gets hurt, and then it's a big issue. Last week, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence tried to make Gabe Davis his number 1 target. Gabe, he was okay. Still having some of the same issues he had in Buffalo as far as route running and really having a consistent success rate of getting off of man-to-man coverage and being able to get open with just route running. We all know that Gabe is a straight line blazer, but Gabe is a guy that's not a terrific route runner. Gabe is a guy that has some issues with cuts and things like that. And he's a bit stiff as far as an NFL wide receiver goes. We know he has elite size and elite straight line speed. So can they continue that success rate with him? And then obviously Brian Thomas Jr., just dynamic receiver, rookie out of Texas, limit his big explosive plays. He had a huge explosive play in week 1. He went for 94 yards last week. Obviously extremely talented and a guy that Trevor Lawrence is looking to get the football to. And hopefully the Bills in this defensive backfield can eliminate him and or really slow him down so that Jacksonville's not able to get anything going in that passing game. Now, another thing that impressed me quite a bit when I looked at the statistics for this game and I looked at the Bills statistics, if you look at these DBs, I mean, talk about tackling machines. Hamlin, 14 tackles. Lewis, 14 tackles, filling in for Johnson. You got Bedford, 10 tackles. Rapp, 10, and then Douglas with 8. So a tremendously deep group. We didn't even talk about Elam. We didn't talk about Ingram. 2 other guys can come out and play. So a group that we were really, really worried about and a bit sensitive about as far as how could they hold up. Now, all of a sudden, this is becoming a strength of the defense. So that's my second key of the game. Third key of the game is Joe Brady. Can Joe Brady continue to trend with the pre-snap motion, and can he continue to add things weekly to confuse the opposing team's defense? I think we're going to see a lot more orbit motion out of Curtis Samuel. I think this is a game where Curtis Samuel can make a big, big impression as far as playing against Jacksonville. Really get out of the backfield, some of that short motion stuff, get him the ball quick, make plays. And obviously, motion and tight group settings, bunch settings, have become the weapon of Joe Brady after week 1 to try to get Dalton Kincaid freed up in the passing game, because after week 1, it seems that teams are focusing on Kincaid, trying to take Kincaid away. So when you look at this game plan with Joe Brady, can he continue to do the pre-snap stuff? You know, use the motion to determine whether you're getting man coverage or you're getting zone coverage. Obviously, Jacksonville's been a predominant man team so far in the first 2 games of the season. But go ahead and give Josh Allen that tell. What am I getting? Am I getting man? Am I getting zone? And then find ways to free up your stars to make big plays because of pre-snap motion. So I think that's a big-time key. And finally, my last key to this game, in the world of football, you just go by the initials, FTFA. And it stands for fly the around. And that's what this football team is doing, okay? They are flying around. They're having fun. Speed all over the field, rallying to the football. You see 6, 7, 8, 9 guys when you pause the all 22. You see that many guys around the football. Guys are there to make plays, and they've got to rally, and they got to tackle, and they got to continue to have fun. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen out of this Bills team in the first 2 games of the season. Yes, we know they have talent. There were question marks in a lot of places, but this is a young group that is willing to learn, is willing to forget mistakes, and is willing to play extremely hard and get after people. And that's the type of attitude that this Bills football team is going to need to beat a very, very strong, very, very sound Jacksonville team, a team that matches up well with Buffalo. They're going to get after them up front. They're going to try to run the football with ATN. They're going to be physical in their double teams. Can this Bills team rally to the football, not only on defense, but offense too? Make big plays, get after it, continue to feed Cook, and all those different things. So I'm looking forward to a really, really big game on Monday night, obviously, in Orchard Park, Highmark Stadium, 7:30 Eastern time. Weather looks great. Give us a little bit of rain. We're fine. We don't mind rain as long as it's not ice and snow, right? Well, you know what? We like that too. But again, if you're watching, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, help us out. We are trending the right way, folks. The only reason that's happening is because of you and because all of our listeners and all the people that are watching on YouTube and the people that are listening to the podcasts on all the various channels that you can the next day. So, folks, I appreciate you. This has been the Big O Show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. We'll be back next week on Thursday with another edition. We might start tweaking things up a little bit. We might add an interview portion. We might add another show that's more the particulars, kind of like we get with Larry Merchant when he talks about 2 guys that are that are boxing and he gets into the particulars. So we might split this thing up into 2 half-hour shows because it's a ton of information to try to get in a short 35 minutes. But again, folks, this has been the Big O Show, Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. I appreciate you. Thanks as always. Much love. Go Bills.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma. Same old dreams hanging off my shoulders.